Now, let's return to our coverage of events in Sierra Leone, where the government there has now charged 12 people, including an aide of the former president, with treason in connection with a failed coup in November 2023. Joining me now is former spokesperson UN mission in Sierra Leone, Patrick Coker. Mr. Coker, thank you for joining us on the news this hour. The position of government is that the attacks in November last year was a failed coup attempt. But do you think President Bio is also paying attention to the political disagreements that followed his election in June, as well as the deteriorating economic situation in that part of Africa?
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I think as a responsible government in a democratic setting, the President Bio, Mother Bio, is definitely addressing some of the backlashes from the elections. Of course, for the economic situation, we have to look at it from three dimensions: the global, the regional, and the national dynamics. I believe the consequences of the economic situation will make the government to also take necessary measures. But I must say that the current security situation in the country seemingly is overwhelming virtually every aspect of the situation in the country.
What about the sentiment that these arrests are geared towards the opposition, particularly members of the APC?
Well, we have those sentiments. However, when you look at the footprints of those who have been arrested and you profile them, there's a coloration that they emerge from a particular political party. One can reasonably assume or infer that it came from this political party or the other. Not least the fact that a former president and also a leader of that party is under some level of investigation as we speak. And you can also imagine that ECOWAS has deployed into the country. That's to tell you the magnitude of the situation. It only brings us back to the days of ECOMOG or pre-ECOMOG and subsequent ECOMOG intervention. It's a dire situation, and ECOWAS also sent some very senior, respectable members of its leadership, presidents, to go and discuss with the sitting president, Mother Bio. So it is very serious.
So only last year we had 2 coups in West Africa, or rather in Africa, 2 failed coups, and 3 out of these 4 situations happened in Western Africa. Do you think we've been able to scratch the surface to understand why this is happening so rapidly in the sub-region?
Well, 2 dimensions to this coup situation. One, we have the domestic situation. The moment the domestic situation or realities from the economic situation, political dynamics, social dynamics, once they gravitate towards serious pressure, pain, and suffering amongst the people, there is a tendency that some radicals want to take advantage of the situation. For me, when you say there's a failed coup, 2 things have happened: a failed intelligence structure and probably a government that is very reactive to dealing with people who attempt to upstage, or commit treason. That's one. Now, the other thing, the external aspect of it, which has an international coloration, it also comes in where some countries just wake up and say, look, we don't want any foreign intervention in our country. And we have seen that in Mali, we've seen that in Niger. And these dynamics really go far. It's not a recent thing, it's quite historical. So, and it's quite very, very sensitive. But I can tell you that the coup trend, which we have put behind us in West Africa, seem to be rearing their heads these days. One can only expect that sitting government will, one, do more training of the armed forces, two, strengthen their intelligence gathering, three, ensure that economic situations are well taken care of, people are happy, and finally, political leaders must sit down and determine that they want to offer good governance. And I can also tell you from my experience, take care of your military.
Very interesting way you've put it. Some would say there are deeper sentiments, particularly in former French colonies, where we've seen, well, we can't tell whether some of these protests really reflect the concerns or heart cry of majority of people in those countries. But many of those coup leaders have even called these military takeovers what they have described as the new phase of decolonization of the African continent. Are you concerned that there's now what they call the new scramble for Africa, where countries are beginning to change ties, from the known Western allies to some more newer names in Russia and China?
Africa will continue to be a toast for countries who do not have the kind of resources that this continent has. And if you do a map of conflicts in Africa, you will discover that in the last probably 3-4 decades, even more, the center stage of conflict reading areas have been those areas where you have very rich mineral resources. Now, a lot has been written about this. Studies have been propounded on how to resolve these issues. And we have emerging interests. For example, China is everywhere in Africa. They come not in the ways of the past. They are there definitely to benefit from those resources. Others are coming in, like the Russians, through, for example, we have seen the private armies coming to help some very weak governments whose armed forces cannot really surmount the terrorists that invade them by way of bringing good governance to them. However, they also don't walk away with their arms flinging. They get something in compensation. So Africa will always be a continent where interests for economic resources will be in the forefront. But Africans also must sit down, or African leaders, putting it directly, must sit down and look for ways and means where these resources can not only generate conflict, but can become a blessing to developing and taking us, to the next level.
Hopefully this is the year the continent wakes up to that reality. Former spokesperson, UN Mission in Sierra Leone, Patrick Coker, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much.